Today I'm going to talk about 8.4 by Peter Hernon. It's a earthquake disaster book, and takes place at the New Madrid Seismic Zone, in which, as if you've done anything past high school history, you probably have heard about it. That's in New Madrid, Missouri. There were a series of 3 magnitude 8 earthquakes back in 1811 and 1812 within a span of just a few months, and it totally changed the landscape there, and it was felt as far away as Chicago and Washington, and it's just a powerful earthquake. But nobody really knew about the devastation because hardly anybody lived there. But that fault is still around. It's the New Madrid Seismic Zone, and it's been almost 200 years or over 200 years since the last major earthquake. So this book has the premise that it's overdue. There's also some other scientific happenings. One scientist also is looking at the earthquake, and he fears that he's actually a physicist, but he thinks there are forces that are also going to be contributing factors to a major earthquake in that zone. The Earth is going to be in perigee. There's going to be an epic amount of solar flares, which in his theory will affect the magnetism of the Earth's own magnetic structure, as well as the moon being so close was going to cause tides and the gravitational effect that could also influence earthquakes. So this perfect storm of natural happenings is set to set off a big earthquake. It starts off with John Adkins. He's a geologic seismologist, which doesn't sound like a really exciting job, but in this book it gets to be pretty exciting. He's interested in why certain large number of animals have kind of gone crazy. He's looking into it based on anecdotal evidence in the past that animals behaved strangely prior to a large earthquake. And while he's out in Kentucky, there's a 7.1 magnitude earthquake at Kentucky Lake, and so he happens to be there when it happens out there, and it kind of activates all the group of seismologists in the area, including the eminent Dr. Jacobs, and they're are worried about what that means, because a quake that big hasn't happened in a long time. So in the meanwhile, Elizabeth Holleran she's a earthquake seismologist out on the West Coast in California. She specializes at the San Andreas Fault. Her old physicist professor is the one who discovers the conditions, the solar flares and the gravitational pull, and is concerned about the New Madrid Zone. And he's run a bunch of calculations, but unfortunately he is very ill, and he can't finish his work, so he bequeaths it to her, and she, just being a seismologist and not a physicist, she just kind of thinks it's a crackpot theory. She doesn't believe that the solar flares, the position of the moon would have anything, even though he has compelling evidence that he bequeaths to her. But the 7.1 earthquake hits, and she flies out to Kentucky to see if she can at least show other people that might be interested in it what her mentor says. So she runs into John Atkins, and they don't get along. John Atkins has been in both the people have been in big earthquakes. Elizabeth's the Northridge earthquake. John happened to be in Mexico when the big earthquake hit there, and unfortunately that's where he lost his first wife. And of course, this is setting up for John and Elizabeth to get together later, of course. But that's okay. It wasn't too unheard of or uncalled for. I don't know how to say it. I mean, it helped with the plot. The plot was okay. Anyway, so they meet at the confab for what's going on with the earthquake, when a big 8.4 earthquake hits, and it totally devastates Memphis, and it's felt all across the country. I'm not sure I can't remember how far west it went, but it felt in D.C. and Chicago, and of course St. Louis was hit, and a bunch of the other big cities had, they weren't as devastated as Memphis, but they had major damage. Towards the middle of the book, they give an estimate of like 250,000 casualties, which it's a huge area where millions and millions of people live that can be affected by the New Madrid Zone. So Elizabeth offers up her mentor's theories about and predictions, and of course nobody buys into it. Everybody shouts her down, practically threatened to kick her out of the little group and whatnot. But it seems that something needs to be done. So they're all just trying to get measurements of the seismic activity, so they can kind of come up with a plan, see exactly how bad it might be. They don't know if these earthquakes were building up to another three-peat, like back in the 1811, 1812. And if so, they're gonna, if two more earthquakes of that magnitude would just devastate the Midwest. So they wanted to figure out what was going on, and the president at the time, fake president, Ross, he really wants some sort of answer. And so another gentleman from New Mexico, the nuclear test site facility there, had been there for since back in the days in the 50s and 60s, doing nuclear tests. Comes up with another, even possibly more harebrained scheme of detonating a nuclear warhead, causing a smaller earthquake to relieve the stress. And the action takes place with trying to get their seismic readings where they need to, and get this device placed in a country that's basically in turmoil. There's a lot of looting, rioting, and even when the governor of Kentucky catches wind of the president's thinking of this, doing this harebrained scheme, calls out his forces, and there's fighting, almost a civil war, mini civil war between Kentucky and the national government troops. So the book is just really, it's really well written. You wouldn't think that earthquake people trying to figure out where the next earthquake is going to be is going to be that action packed, but this is really an action packed book. It's almost unputdownable. I had to put it down a few times just because how my reading schedule usually is. But it really kept my interest, and mainly because everything is highly plausible. Peter Hernon has obviously done a lot of work, and it's scientific backing on his premise, and it's just really good. It takes place in the 90s, so it was before all the trash that's come out, and it really kind of made me nostalgic for the 90s, 80s, 90s. I miss that era. And I think if something like this were to happen today, I don't think I think it'd be over. Nobody has the guts to do anything anymore. Nobody has the will, especially leaders. And yeah, it would just, there's a little bit of political intrigue in this as well. People covering their rear ends, and causing, they're trying to sabotage, the endeavors. But it's a really good book. It really was fast paced, really good action adventure, disaster adventure, I guess. It really it made sense, flowed well. One thing I thought was funny was they asked the president for some computers, and they asked for, well, we need something big and powerful, something that can do with gigs of RAM. And I thought, wow, I mean, that was back in the Stone Age, so that was kind of funny. Yeah, we need something with a few gigs. Anyway, that gave me a chuckle. But it's a good book. It's really fast paced. It'd make an excellent movie, I think. But they don't make movies anymore, so probably never seen anything like it. That's my review of it. I thought I'd try to go a little more in depth on this review, and just see if you're interested in 8.4 by Peter Hernon. I'm going to definitely see if he's got anything else that's worthy, and give it a try. So we'll see you next time.